Hello. What is happening, everyone out there? Hope you guys are having a fantastic Monday, starting the week off great. Welcome to Citizen Pete Live. I am joined by the one and only Kelly Cash. Kelly, what's going on, man?
Hey, thanks for having me back, man. We had the long Christmas break, and even longer for me, but I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, man, glad to have you back on. It has been a while. Yeah, I was trying to, as we were setting up stuff today, I was like, man, it's been too long, man, you know?
Yeah, it's been whatever the opposite of a New York minute is.
Exactly.
I don't know, like a Deep South minute, I don't know.
I feel like during the Christmas time, I got a ton of content, and I was just like, all right, time for me to like take off a little bit, and then slowly ease into the new year, and then they stormed the Capitol, and it's been wild ever since.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was out of town, you were out of town, you know, that's how it goes.
Oh, yeah, man.
Not to mention all the Capitol storming.
Doing our thing. But cool. So what you drinking today?
I've got an aperitif wine. It's a fortified wine. Let me get it back into the screen. But yeah, it's pretty good.
Which I'm surprised I didn't know as much about the fortified wine stuff. I was like, man, that sounds pretty good. But
yeah, I don't know why they're not more popular. I've tried several now, and I'm like several different kinds, and I'm like, these are great. I don't know why we don't do them.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and the ports too. Ports are pretty awesome. You're telling about ports, same kind of thing.
Super into ports. I love ports. I mean, I only got into them like a year or two ago, and it's just like, oh man, these are awesome. Like, why didn't I know about these earlier?
It's like you're drinking like a classy bard or something, or you know.
Yeah, you know, you're like really classing things up, but also it's got a super high alcohol content.
Yeah, which is always a good winner. I'm breaking out that rye whiskey, Slow and Low. A lot of people have not heard about the Slow and Low, but getting that Slow and Low going on. You know, it's good stuff.
Nice.
It's actually really funny. My mom was like, "Oh, the content's really good. I'm glad to see you stop drinking on the show." And I'm like, "I've been drinking the whole time. Maybe you just."
That does sound like your mom.
Yeah, I was like, maybe you just missed it, but hey, what you gonna do? And speaking of that, let's get into it, man. If you're joining us with us live, do me a favor, leave a comment, let me know what you're thinking. But welcome to Citizen Pete. So, quick question: have you ever been convicted of a crime, or are you likely to be in trouble with the federal government? Maybe you were one of those tons of folks that stormed the Capitol, or you have been posting election fraud stuff or propagating election fraud for the last couple of months. Well, if you're one of those people, then for the cool cost of $2 million, you can get a presidential pardon. As the United States nears around 400,000 dead from the coronavirus, and infections are averaging over 200,000 new cases a day, and daily deaths are starting to cross that 4,000 mark, Trump is busy allegedly selling pardons. According to an article in the New York Times, a former CIA officer, John Carrickhow, that's a hard one there. He was formerly convicted of selling classified information. He was a former CIA officer who was convicted of selling classified information, and he was told that Rudy Giuliani, Trump's personal lawyer, could get him a presidential pardon for the cool cost of $2 million. And he said no and contacted the FBI. So the FBI is allegedly looking into this to try to figure out, is Trump actually selling pardons? And according to CNN, Trump is expected to pardon 100 people on Tuesday. We'll see if Trump calls CNN, he calls CNN fake news, so maybe he'll wait till real early in the morning on Wednesday just to be spiteful. But the word is that it's going to happen on Tuesday, and we're just going to have to wait to find out. No word on who he's pardoning, but don't be surprised if Ivanka, Jared Kushner, Rudy Giuliani, and Trump himself are on that list. Now, all this comes after Trump has pardoned Charles Kushner, who is the father of Jared Kushner, who, if you have forgotten, blackmailed his own sister to stop her from testifying against him by getting a prostitute to sleep with her husband. And Kushner recorded it all. There's also been pardons for these guys who were convicted of killing Blackwater contractors who were convicted of killing civilians in Iraq. And also, Trump has been spending a lot of time pardoning government officials, I believe congressmen, who decided to use campaign funds so they could have sex with people who are not their wives. So, Kelly, am I missing something, or is all of this part of the whole drain the swamp plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the drain the swamp plan is really going well when a guy convicted of selling classified documents tries to get influence, tries to just spend some money to get some influence, get a pardon, and then somebody just straight up goes, "Give me this amount of money and I'll give you a pardon." And even that guy goes, "Wait, this seems illegal." Like, the fact that that's the guy who's blowing the whistle on this, a man who sold classified documents and by his own admission was paying for access to the president, was like, "Wait, you can't just sell me a pardon." Like, I mean, come on here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, it's almost for him like this is just too ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, okay, yeah, he's a convicted felon there selling secrets, but even he is like, look, I don't want to be a part of this.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, we've already seen war criminals, white collar criminals, regular run of the mill criminals, congressional criminals. It's like the scene in Blazing Saddles where they're lining all the guys up. Just every possible kind of scumbag out there is apparently going to get a pardon, no matter how bad of a person they are.
Exactly, and it is funny for people who are actively going out in the media, folks who stormed the Capitol, and yeah, they're actively trying to get a pardon based on all of that, and saying that the president went down there and told him to do it and all that. And I would not be surprised if you saw pardons related to the actual speakers of the event. Again, Rudy Giuliani spoke at the event itself and, urged people to go to the Capitol. And so, yeah, I'm like, there's a lot of folks out there who are trying to get a pardon. And apparently, if you got the cash, it can make it happen.
Yeah, and I haven't seen a ton of people talking about it, but we may find out, because nobody's ever tried the preemptive pardon before of like, this guy hadn't even been convicted. Like, well, we're going to pardon him anyways, which seems like we're definitely going to see tested. That very much seems like a real possibility. So, I mean, that could be a big part of the Biden administration that, the next round of people come in and say, no, that's absolutely ridiculous. And then tries to just go ahead and convict all these people anyways. And we have have to bring in all the constitutional lawyers. Exactly.
And it seems like another one of those things where, like, it didn't explicitly say in the Constitution, of course, you can't pardon yourself. But if you read the rest of the fine document there, it's like, clearly that was not the founders' intention for people to be able to pardon themselves and be above the law.
And I think the general understanding is that you can't pardon yourself and you can't pardon somebody of a crime they haven't been convicted of. So...
Yeah. It's one of those things. Like, I wasn't around during the 1700s when they wrote the Constitution. They definitely left some stuff out that I would like to include, but I imagine they were like, look, people are going to have common sense when they read this in 2021, right? Like, they're not going to, come on.
Yeah, I mean, we've set some terrible precedents with pardons. We talked about it before. I think pardoning Nixon was the wrong idea. Yeah. I think, pardoning Scooter Libby and all those guys was the wrong idea. That I think this is really just set us up for this, Republicans going out there and pushing the line every 20 years or so. It's just this is the kind of stuff that Rod Blagojevich went down for, trying to sell Obama's Senate seat. You can't go out there and just openly sell things like this. That's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, it is like the definition of corruption. But hey, if you're out there and you're looking to sell a pardon, you see my Venmo's popping down there at Citizen Pete 101. Don't worry, I'll make sure the money gets to the right place. All right, so we're gonna check in with the live comments there. Oh, gee, what's happening, man? Hope you're doing good. Yeah, man, I had a good day. Just getting into that Monday swing of things, which is always fun. And yeah, we'll hit you up on that GoFundMe. I was just talking with Kelly about, all right, if we do some of these, get some pardon funds coming in, can we like split those costs or something like that, or who's getting what? But yeah, man, we'll definitely make sure to take care of you, for sure. Just kind of blows my mind. Like, all right, presidential pardons. But as we kind of move on throughout the show here, so one of those things, if you a lot of people are maybe looking forward to this, but come Wednesday, it is the official end of Donald Trump's presidency. The president will be in Florida Wednesday morning because apparently he wants to fly an Air Force One last time, and is supposedly unwilling to ask Biden if he could borrow the plane. Maybe Trump just doesn't have the frequent flyer miles. I don't know. But either way, Trump is gone come Wednesday. But even after he's been banned on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, make no mistake, Trump isn't going anywhere. He won't officially be an official anymore, but the Trumps are here to stay by and large. In an article in Politico, where they were looking at Ivanka's potential political future, she is considering running for Marco Rubio's Senate seat in 2022. Though they could just be trying to make sure Rubio votes a certain way on the impeachment vote. Not entirely sure, but we'll just have to wait and see. Also, Don Jr. is supposedly looking to run for mayor in New York City, though Donald Sr. apparently doesn't think that's a good idea, which is a hilarious headline, and I did not believe it until I actually pulled up the article here. But yeah, apparently Trump says Don Jr. wouldn't have a chance running for NYC mayor. And of course, there's no word yet on if Barron is running for class president. But apparently politics is now the Trump family business. And if maybe you got a glimmer of hope that Trump would be out after the Capitol storming, well, I want you to take a quick look at this. So, see if I could pull it up here. All right, this is coming from the Pew Research Center. And a majority of Americans do not want Trump to remain a major political figure after the storming of the Capitol. Now, this was taken right after the Capitol was stormed. And a lot of folks, it was actually one of Trump's, he had one of his lowest approval ratings that he's ever had in his entire presidency. I'm not sure if it elicited in this Pew Research article, but at the lowest I saw with support overall was, I think, about 29%, which is the lowest of Trump's presidency by far. But as things often do in politics, the pendulum may have shifted.
And our new NBC News poll of registered voters has the president's approval rating holding steady at 43%, with 55% disapproving. It's more or less where his numbers have been throughout most of his presidency in our poll.
So yes, Trump has been impeached twice, but unless he's convicted in the Senate, which seems less likely with each passing day, Trump is not going to be barred from holding federal office in the future. And as Trump was supposedly going to announce his candidacy for 2024 right after he left office, really on Inauguration Day to try to, again, steal some thunder from Joe Biden, but he was talked out of it because he'd have to file paperwork. So unfortunately, Trumpism is here to stay. But what do you think, Taylor? You think the Trumps are going to be around for a lot longer?
Yeah, I mean, it really sounds like Donald's going to vote for Andrew Yang over his son in the mayoral race.
I know, which is like, look, I've seen this kind of come up here and there, and there's like hilarious videos where it's like, Don Jr. seems like he's let down a little bit by the father figure there, and I haven't really wanted to report on it because I just feel like it's mean. But yeah, it's like he's his own dad's like, nah, you shouldn't run in this race.
Not just you shouldn't run, saying he would straight up lose. I mean, you got to feel sorry for people trying to write satire in the middle of this. I mean, it reads like an Onion headline. It's no, he didn't have to take that shot at him.
I know, really. I'm just like, yeah, shots fired. Like, what are you? I just picture Don Jr. just like, getting his Twitter blown up and someone saying, oh, that's fake news. Dad would never say that. And then, oh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd seen the Ivanka thing, thinking like, oh no, we're gonna lose America's least useful senator, Marco Rubio. That it took him like literally years to get a totally inconsequential bill with his name on it passed. And he only did that after people started, remarking on the fact that he'd been in the Senate for years and never got anything passed. But it is interesting, the point you brought up, that maybe they're looking to, threaten Rubio with a run in order to secure his vote. I hadn't thought of that. I mean, I think it's a plausible theory.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, obviously, they're just going after Rubio, and they are, they haven't really. I mean, obviously, there's only so many Trump kids. You can't just have them run for Senate everywhere. But I think that's pretty plausible.
I mean, there's a bunch of them,
and I think they are. Well, there are quite a few. But I think they're just kind of reminding the Republican Party, who's really like in control, by floating the idea or the possibility that Ivanka will run in Florida. And honestly, I think if she were to run, she'd probably win that race like hands down. But again, I think they're just not. They're either doing one of two things. They're trying to avoid announcing now because obviously, if you announce you're running, then you have to do all kinds of paperwork. There's a lot that kind of goes. If you can't just say I'm running for president and like, okay, we actually have to do things to do that. Running for Senate.
Yeah, as we found out last time. Yeah,
exactly. And I think they're just trying to flex their muscle. And Marco Rubio, who seemed very much like he was in favor of impeachment, he seems like he's kind of scaled that back down a little bit. So I've kind of just reading between the weeds there.
Yeah. It seemed like he was finding a spine for a brief second there, and then now maybe it's more the Homer going back into the bushes gift. I mean, let's be real. Marco Rubio's an empty suit. The guy's not a real senator. Yeah. I mean, I mean, him losing, it's not like it'd be a great loss, but I don't think that's a real challenge on either one. I don't think we're really going to see Ivanka running for Senate. I don't think we're really going to see Don Jr. running for mayor. But I mean, what do I know? I mean, I wouldn't have called Trump winning the presidency. So
me neither. I mean, I thought there was absolutely no way he would win, and now we actually have a QAnon supporter in Congress from the great state of Florida. So I think at this point it's a done deal. And I think that Trump by and large he's not going anywhere. Like, he's off all these apps. He's lost his megaphone, and he will people complain about censorship and Parler and all this stuff, but he can call down the White House press corps anytime he wants to. I mean, as the president of the United States, he has the biggest megaphone in the world. But afterwards, he's going to lose that. But I still think, by and large, Trump's going to be around.
Yeah, I mean, well, the whole censorship stuff. I mean, we've talked about this. The Q Congresswoman, with her censored mask, speaking on national television in the middle of the U.S. Capitol. It's like saying we're being censored because we can't go do that. It's like, well, I mean, we didn't run for office. We didn't,
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Key thing, though, you didn't, if you did want to talk in Congress, you gotta get the votes and you gotta win an election. You can't just go into the place and jump on the microphone. That is not legal. Let's not have that happen.
Right. Turns out, they don't like it when you do that.
No.
Who would have guessed?
Who would have thought? Who would have thought, Kelly? But yeah. As far as I know, Trump is here to stay, for sure. Well, hey, just gonna check back in with you guys. Hope you guys are doing good as I'm sipping the drink here. But hey, again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching Citizen Pete. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. I was just talking with Kelly about trying to be more consistent about like doing live shows and updating comments. So I'm going to try to do live shows every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 7 p.m. That is the goal. We're going to try it out this week and see how it goes. But we're going to switch gears here just a little bit. So I don't know about you guys, but I see a ton of crazy shit on Facebook. A lot of my friends have, purged others that they don't agree with or don't want to see their content. But honestly, I kind of want to know what's going on both sides, right? So even when I had a friend last week tell me that Nancy Pelosi was arrested at the border trying to flee the country after they got her laptop, not true. Or that the Pope was under arrest, and I pulled up a live shot of the Vatican, and I was like, he is not under arrest. But I don't block any of them because, hey, it's kind of crazy it's kind of interesting to see what kind of crazy shit they're into. But when I saw something about how the coronavirus vaccine is killing people, I thought it was total and complete bullshit, just a made-up story, until I saw who was actually reporting on it.
How safe is the Pfizer COVID vaccine? We are investigating the death of a South Florida doctor who passed away 2 weeks after getting his shot.
A doctor in Florida took the COVID-19 vaccine and died 2 weeks later after his immune system had some issues after receiving the vaccine. Investigators aren't saying if it's directly related, but they are investigating because that is what investigators do. Also, there was another article in the New York Post, which was pointing to an incident in Norway in which 23 people died after taking the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, all the deaths were nursing home patients, right? And with 13 of those deaths, they specifically said they were blamed on the symptoms from people taking the vaccine. But again, these were all people they were all nursing home patients, all over 80 years old. And there have been 30,000 doses of the COVID vaccine in Norway. Here in the United States, we are looking at, this is coming from the CDC, and we have administered so far just a little over 12 million vaccines here in the States, with 30 million of those vaccines distributed, just waiting to be taken. So the overwhelming amount of folks who are taking the coronavirus vaccine have been totally fine. And, again, with this case in Florida, they're not exactly sure if it was related to the vaccine itself. He did seem to have like a strange reaction to it. But, honestly, Kelly, it kind of felt weird bringing this story up just in general. But I think it's one of the things important to talk about these issues, especially with stuff with the vaccine, because I feel like if people feel like we can't talk about this kind of stuff, like if you say anything bad about it at all, just want to sweep it under the rug, that really kind of makes people, it makes them trust it less than they should. But the fact of the matter is that, yes, there have been some issues with the vaccine for some people, but it's safe for the majority of others.
Yeah, I hesitate to even get into this, but the truth of the matter is that this vaccine is wildly safe. I think that the numbers have gone up a little bit. I've seen different numbers coming out of the reporting from Norway, but looking at, maybe 29 out of 30,000 people died after receiving the vaccine, but all of them, the reporting out of Norway is seeing a little bit of different numbers and stuff, but it looks like all of these people, all 29 of them, were over 85 years old, all in nursing homes. And again, like you said, some of those aren't even being attributed to even side effects of the vaccine. These were people in very, very frail condition.
Yep.
And at that point, you're looking at it's kind of like the people who say that daylight saving time kills people. That every year people die of heart attacks. And it's like, I don't know that waking up an hour earlier is exactly what killed them. It may have been the straw that broke the camel's back, but it was going to be something.
I don't know, man. As someone who likes to stay up late, waking up early, there's times I feel like that could definitely take me out. But yeah, these vaccines, like, obviously that's the thing. Like, and it's unfortunate with the politics around vaccines, and I've seen other folks talk about this, other scientists and stuff like that, who, because there's so much political stuff around it, that if you're going to look into a vaccine or anything negative comes out about a vaccine, everyone kind of jumps on it because people want to say they're 110% safe. When the fact of the matter is that, some things are going to affect people in different ways, and we don't always know that. It's just kind of a fact of life.
I mean, nothing is 100% safe. If we gave everybody, everybody in the world, the exact same meal, or something, a certain number of people would have allergic reactions to it. We knew there were going to be some side effects, but in Norway, again, it looks like we're looking at the really minor side effects, things that we would expect with, fever and nausea were the two things most cited in the deaths there in Norway, which, that's, a low-grade fever when you're already in a healthcare facility, or nausea is not going to be a problem if you're not already in a very frail condition. So these vaccines are very safe, but I really do understand the concern about talking about them because there has been so much misinformation. I know, we talked about these Norway cases, the Florida case. At first it seems like, oh, this is some made-up story, and there is a made-up story going around about a nursing home here in the U.S. That they didn't have any deaths, and now they do, and it's one of those completely made-up Facebook stories that get shared.
Yep, and people, by and large, one of the things where they're, obviously taking down Trump, and another story that I'm working on for later this week is how, since they have removed Trump, they've noticed that misinformation has gone down dramatically. That's being shared
70
online.
something percent.
Yeah, it's an insane amount, but people don't realize that obviously Trump doesn't just sit down there making up all this stuff all day, but there's people out there who, okay, if you can create like a fake post about a vaccine, or creating a fake post that people are searching up, that's going to get you a lot of attention. One of the things that I kind of saw related to this wasn't even a vaccine or related to politics in any way, but there were stories coming out about people who bought the new Xbox, right? And the new Xbox was smoking, and then all of a sudden you saw like a couple people share videos of like all this smoke coming from the Xbox, and like the internet kind of freaked out over it. And Xbox responded, and they kind of looked into some of these claims, and they weren't actually catching fire or smoking or anything. People had opened up their own Xboxes, had put dry ice in there, put something in there to make steam or make it look like they were smoking, because of course these get shared millions and millions of views. Yeah. All of a sudden, you're people don't realize that if you get a certain amount of attention on things like YouTube, right? There's people who make money off, maybe I'll be there one day, who knows? But like, there's people who, if you
is
go
money
viral,
and power.
Exactly, you go viral with something like that, the next thing you know, you can make a lot of money off it. So there's a huge financial incentive for people out there to make this shit up.
Yeah.
Yep. And but hopefully that'll change. But anyway, again, we wanted to reiterate that the COVID vaccine is mostly safe. If you had any complaints about this segment, here is Kelly's Twitter handle. Make sure to reach out to @KellyCash25 there with any complaints. And let them know what you think.
We were talking about Venmo earlier. Actually, if you have complaints, please send them with money to my Venmo. We'll try and get it put up there later.
Yeah, exactly. Just send those to the Venmo. It's all good. Oh, gee, what's happening, man? Seems like you're the only one commenting on it, but, I appreciate you for hanging out, man. So try to go through some of these. After NYC canceled all contract with Trump, will he stay in NYC? Actually, he is officially not a New York State resident anymore. He's moved down to Florida officially. So, yeah, he's going to have a lot of cases. Unfortunately, you can't just move to a different state and not face any criminal prosecution in the previous state. So he
moving to Florida, from what I've seen.
It might, yeah. He could maybe get in some more like hot shit doing that for sure. Because that's one of those things. Like he's, it seems like he's trying to evade any kind of prosecution there. Also, California stopping vaccinations because people have been having allergic reactions. I haven't seen anything like that yet. That's definitely something to look into there. I mean, they've been giving out, even after this, I think this Norway thing, or they've periodically kind of updated people about, okay, maybe you shouldn't take this if you have crazy allergies or something like that, or, there's certain things to like kind of look into. But again, I think it's, it's okay to have concerns about taking something like a vaccine that's never been used like this before. So,
Yeah, and I mean, you give anything to such a large segment of the population, you are going to have reactions, you are going to have issues, but compared to even some regular prescription medications, this vaccine seems to be safe compared even to those.
Oh yeah.
By the sheer number of people we've seen take it, and like the very I would say almost surprisingly low number of issues we've seen.
Yeah, wrong pipe there. But yeah, it's even I didn't realize this, but people even have allergies to stuff like Tylenol or Motrin. It's like that they can't take it. Like there really is no there seem to be very few medicines or anything out there that's just 100% effective for everything. And if you kind of had the media attention that you had on COVID now versus like anything else in the world, you're gonna find
versus Tylenol or something. Yeah,
exactly. If every time Tylenol made someone sick, that was
plenty of people with allergy to Tylenol.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the active ingredient in it, but I always ask, somebody asked, hey, do you have anything? I'm like, well, I've got Advil, does that work for you? Because like you said, I mean, you don't know, and the sheer number of people out there are going to be people who have reactions to just about anything.
Oh yeah, and it's like, we hang out a lot. Me and Kelly, good friends here, but like we hang out. And I know that Kelly cannot drink Bud Light. Makes him feel sick. So that if I ever have a sponsorship with them, I don't know if I can have you on anymore. But I'll we'll figure that out.
Well, hey, it's not that I don't like it. It's that it doesn't like me. Something in it doesn't agree with me.
I'm not a huge fan either. But I just no, yeah, that's the thing. We're not all the same. Some things affect people differently, man. It is what it is. It is what it is. All right, so keep moving on throughout the show. So too often when stories come up, big break news events or, things happen that kind of grabs everyone's attention. It's one of those things. We always focus on what and not enough about the why. Like in 2016, 59 million Americans voted for this guy.
You got to see this guy. I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
We're building a wall. He's a Mexican. We're building a wall between here and Mexico.
If you are saying he can't do his job because of his race, is that not the definition of racism?
No, I don't think so at all.
I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy.
So after that tape, Billy Bush lost his career and Trump was elected president. And if you're keeping score at home, that's 2 Bushes that Trump has ended their careers, essentially. Then, after being in office for 4 years, 73 million Americans then decided to cast their ballot for Donald Trump. And this shocked everyone, right? That Trump got so many voters. And actually, I think that might be wrong. He might be up to 75 million now. I'm not entirely sure, but he definitely got a lot of votes. And, people were shocked that people voted for Trump, but they never asked them why someone would vote for Trump in the first place. But honestly, if you're actually talking to Americans out there and, you're actually getting a sense from them what they're really thinking, it's really not hard to see why so many people voted for Trump.
28-year-old business owner Chris Trott, twice an Obama voter, flipped to Trump in 2016.
He's not a guy that I would go and want to have a beer with or go golfing with.
But you'll vote for him.
But I'll vote for him.
Why?
Because what he's doing seems to be working.
Saddled with college loan debt, Trott took a huge gamble 4 years ago, starting his own vehicle modification business. It's growing. He might soon hire his first full-time employee. The strong economy gets his vote, as does the president.
Yeah, as they say in politics, but somehow seem to forget before every election, it's the economy, stupid. So Trump exists for a few reasons, but one of the main reasons that I think is income inequality. You know, we live in a country where millions are on unemployment, waiting for jobs that'll never come back. In fact, 10 million jobs, that has been estimated that there will be 10 million jobs that we have lost during this pandemic that are just gone forever. We live in a country where thousands are waiting in food banks just to survive, right? And nearly 400,000 Americans are dead from the pandemic. But, it's also the same country where the richest Americans made more than $1 trillion during this pandemic. For some, 2020 was awesome. I saw these people, you listen to every radio station, every show, and they're like, 2020 was a bad year for everyone. But for a lot of folks out there, 2020 was not bad at all, right? And the only way for our country to come back together and make things work is for the government to actually work and try to fix some of this income inequality. Oops, sorry, wrong graphic there. And as part of his coronavirus relief plan, Biden is looking to up the minimum wage to $15 an hour. According to CBS News, doing that could help bring 1 million Americans out of poverty, which is huge. But people are also worried that it could hurt small business at the same time. What say you, Kelly?
Look, the minimum wage should go up to 15 an hour. If it had followed inflation, we'd be looking at $24 an hour right now. And we see all these things of people saying that, small businesses won't exist or your burger is going to cost more. But really, when the minimum wage has gone up, we've seen economic booms. And, you can say that was, a post-war economy, whatever. But the facts of the matter are that other countries have higher minimum wages and we don't see it hurting their economies. I mean, I'll throw a couple numbers at you here because the one thing I see going around a lot on Twitter is people saying, oh, now your Taco Bell is going to cost you the price of a sit-down meal. Your McDonald's is going to cost you the price of a sit-down restaurant meal. Here in the U.S., Big Mac, $4.80. Mm-hmm. Over in Denmark, it's $5.15. Minimum wage here, $7.25. Over there in Denmark, it's $22 an hour.
Oh wow!
So
yeah, shit.
So well over the 15 mark, and
yeah,
I hate to break it to you, but the next time you hit up McDonald's, it might cost you a whole 35 cents more. And if they can do it in Denmark, why can't they do it here?
Yeah.
Another, we want to stay on McDonald's. I'll throw one more number I just couldn't believe. Average McDonald's price is actually a little bit lower than the Big Mac. Way back in 1998, the average price of a meal, $4.45. The minimum wage back then, $7.25. Still at $7.25 now. Average price of a McDonald's meal is $9.
That's a
the
very
price of a meal has
at.
doubled. Minimum wage has not gone up. It costs more to be alive now than it did 20 years ago.
Yep.
And we're not going to hurt the economy by raising wages.
Exactly, and it's one of those things where people, I've wanted to kind of pull up a chart with this whole segment, but you look by and large, the cost of living is gone up dramatically in the United States. Like this is, but the wages have stayed pretty flat this whole time.
Yeah,
and it seems like it's gotten to this system where it can't support itself any longer. I was shocked to see in my other kind of research that right now the average American makes around $50,000 a year, right? And this whole idea of the American dream, the white picket fence, the wife at home, the dad who works, the two kids, right? That can't exist anymore based on that income. Like if you wanted to have enough to be able to sustain that kind of lifestyle here in the United States, you would need to work, I believe it was 57 weeks, but it was definitely more than 52. And the problem is,
you're correct.
There's only 52 weeks in a year. So, and I think people out there also saying that, okay, businesses are going to fall apart or business is going to have a lot of issues if we do this. But you have to understand that for a business owner, if you are working for a company as an employee, the only reason they have you there is because you in some way make them more money. And so if they say, I'm going to get rid of a lot of my staff to have to make this $15 minimum wage thing happen, they're not, because they're going to make less money if they do so. Right?
Yeah, I mean, another image I keep seeing posted from people with more conservative views is this picture of a McDonald's where it's, all the automatic cashiers saying, like, this will be the future if we raise minimum wage. It's like, that's right now. That's a picture from present day, not a picture from the future. You can't say that will be that's idiotic. Like,
exactly. And
it's unreasonable.
It's just dumb. And really, for me, I think going back to this income inequality problem, that I think is a big reason of what fueled Trump in the first place, and has fueled a lot, even if you like Trump, right? Even if you think, all right, Trump's my guy, I don't like these guys bad-mouthing Trump. Well, think about it on the other side. I mean, Bernie Sanders, a lot of people, they like Bernie, don't like Bernie, but he's definitely to the left of where the party is at in a lot of different ways, right? And so at one point before Biden kind of got in, you had, two people on the far sides of the political extreme were the potential candidates for presidency. And again, maybe if you're a Bernie fan, you don't think he's extreme. If you're a Trump fan, you probably don't think he's extreme. But in a lot of ways, those are two different sides of the pendulum there, right? And so we had that choice in the election. But I think people are getting to more extreme political views as income inequality seems to grow. So it seems like a lot of people, like that guy in that segment I included, he was a Bernie voter, and then he switched to Trump because...
Obama voter.
Yeah. But he switched to Trump. But yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, it's just the economy,
I mean, I don't really think that's a one-to-one. Bernie's got the socialist label and everything, but I don't really feel like he's your extreme left. If you want to slap somebody with that label, you're going to look somebody who's a lot more progressive, like Ilhan Omar. He's got some pretty controversial ideas. But even then, I don't think we have a radical left in this country like we do on the right. But at the same time, Congress is just much more conservative than the average American.
Sure.
We see broad support for many policies that can't get traction in Congress. So, and I feel vindicated a bit here that, Biden's already putting out these plans and are far left of where a lot of people expected. But this is in line with what I expected from the Biden administration. And he's going farther than it even looks like on the surface. I mean, a lot of people are saying, of course, $15 isn't enough. With inflation, it would be 24, so it's actually a downgrade. But take it what you can get. But the big thing he's proposing is eliminating a lot of the loopholes that allow you to not pay people a minimum wage. Like the tipping system and several other big loopholes. And that's pretty big. I think even
I
more
had
so
heard that,
than
actually. That's awesome. Yeah, I know a couple people who might be happy about them fixing the tipping system there. I might have to pass that
and I
along.
mean we'll see if even if these some of these proposals that have been floated become policy, or even if that policy proposals then go on to get passed by Congress. But I mean we'll see. I mean he's promising big moves on that. He's promising big moves on immigration. So I think we are going to see a bit of a move here, but I think we're a lot better off rather than electing a rich guy who's only rich because his dad was rich to fix our income inequality. We've elected a guy who came from very little, was for years one of the least wealthy members of Congress. And now has risen to the presidency. I think we're in better hands with Biden. I think he has a better personal understanding of the income inequality that most Americans face.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Yeah, he seems like he has a much better like grasp on, how Americans are really hurting by and large. I mean, Trump, it kind of reminds me of, in Austin, there was this boat rally with Trump, and there was this boat parade with Trump, and there were these big boats that were, they all did this big parade, but there was these massive, massive yachts, right? And then there were all these smaller boats that were going around the massive yachts. But the problem is, if you know anything about boating, it's a horrible idea because the massive boats are going to swamp the smaller boats and they're going to sink. And that's what happened in this Trump parade. But I think that really kind of sums up, how things have kind of gone with him, is that, he's helping out the rich people, and it's the rest of us that are kind of suffering. Whereas I think one of my favorite things I've seen from Biden is there was a kid who, it's one of those things there was a kid who, had like Down syndrome or something like that, or he had some disabilities, and he wanted a hug from Biden. Biden just grabbed him, hugged him. It was all this great moment. And I think Biden, people, especially people on the right, I've seen, Eric Trump, I should say, had this tweet that went viral, where he posted a picture of some mansion and was like, "This is Biden's house," and like, seems legit, that a senator making, X amount of money per year could afford this mansion. And it's like, yeah. First of all, let's take a picture of what Eric lives, and second of all, that wasn't Biden's house that they were showing a picture of. But it's like, I feel like Biden is going to
it was like a large house he had bought and like owned and renovated for like 15 years and then sold at a loss and hadn't lived there for like decades. It was like the man lost money on this. Like,
like he hadn't lived there
forever. The whole
forever.
AOC thing over again, where they kept showing, pictures of her childhood home back and forth, and she's like, "Well, what are you trying to paint me as? Is, a bartender who doesn't know anything, and this rich kid? Make up your mind which way you're tossing the insult."
Exactly. Like, it doesn't really make sense when you kind of look at it, So yeah, we'll see. And I think we're kind of getting a little long in the segment here. I'm trying to keep them a little shorter, but I think one of the big things also, I kind of think about this whole $15 minimum wage thing and why I think it's such a good idea is that. I saw a story, I was watching like a Bill Maher, and he had a guy on, and his dad fought in World War II. And his dad was part of the folks who were there, part of the cleanup crew after World War II, and trying to get the country together. And at the time, the former Nazis there, the diehards and all this stuff, promised 100-year Third Reich. They were like, "We're not going anywhere. We're not staying away." Right. And so at the time, and his dad, was part of this, but they were like, "How do we get rid of all these people? How do we get the country to come back together?" And the answer was to make it successful. And it was like, "All right, Hans, instead of maybe, you holding your pitchfork there, why don't you come down off your mountain? We got a couple jobs here for you. Why don't you come down and, join the economy?" And by and large, that, at least for half of Germany, the other half was, under Russian control.
Right.
For for the western half, I believe it was, they were able to get the country back up and running because they made things good for your average kind of German. So I'm hoping that Biden can make that happen here, but we'll see. Only time will tell, Kelly.
Sure enough.
Oops, sorry. Popped you up there, Kelly. So as we're going through the show, answering comments here. OG, what's up, man? You're asking, is it important that Denmark gets their defense budget from the U.S.? I would wonder how much of their defense budget actually comes from the United States, but it's one of those important things to kind of remember. Like, I did a segment on this a couple weeks ago about, like, foreign aid. And people have a lot of misconceptions about foreign aid. I didn't realize this, but...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I was talking to people about it, and it's just like, it blows my mind how people don't... Like, for example, this article I was reading on it and did as part of the segment was that, 25% of people think that the U.S. spends like 30% of our budget on foreign aid. And really, it's like, 1%. You know, the average U.S. budget is like $4.4 trillion. Or I should say in 2019, that it was $4.4 trillion. And we spent like maybe $40 billion on like foreign aid. I'm not exactly sure if that's part of this defense budget for Denmark, but you know, the other thing that's important to realize is that, you know, in doing this segment on foreign aid, like not a ton of money actually goes to governments, and a lot of the stuff that's, you know, like if we are like we have an active interest in trying to prop up some of these countries, especially if you're out there and you don't like immigration and you're like, hey, I want to keep just America's for Americans. Well, then you should be supporting foreign aid like crazy, because history has shown that if the countries are unstable, then people leave and they go to the stable countries. I mean, just look at what's going on in South America. People are like, okay, well, someone's going to kill me in Honduras, or, you know, it's just getting crazy down in some of these Central American countries. I'm just going to go to the United States.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's a difference between foreign aid and defense spending, but
sure.
You know, I think they both can go back to that point, you know, you had about post-war Germany, that, you know, propping up a country like helps solve a lot of problems, and that, you know, if somewhere is not facing conflict, if we're helping, you know, feed a populace, if we're helping just, you know, it's like for Denmark, you know, who does Denmark need to defend themselves from? I mean, well, the answer being Russia. You know, they're part of NATO, part of the EU. So really it's part of just keeping closer economic ties. But no, I wouldn't say that there's too much of a tie there, because, you know, wages and the economy are so unconnected. Well, as unconnected as something can be. But from, you know, defense spending, you know, like you said, what we spend on everything else, you know, is pretty paltry in comparison to the rest of the budget. You know, it's mostly defense spending, but that's because we spend time propping people up, because we spend time looking out for our own interests by helping others' interests. So I wouldn't say it's really germane to this particular conversation.
Absolutely. And one of the things, so I've heard you know, talk to a lot of people about different stuff, you know, politics, obviously.
Right.
And one of the things that the only thing, you know, that I've heard to justify the military spending budget is that it's a jobs creation program. And I think I heard that from, I can't remember who, but yeah, it was like they referred to it as a job creation program. And like, there are so many jobs that are created from this massive, massive budget. And again, I don't know if I totally agree with that as being like a reason for having it, but I would wonder how much of that military spending goes to, like, you know, creating or spending money for equipment that's going to go to other countries and this and that. And so it's like, it's also creating American jobs, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, that argument, it really doesn't deal with the tremendous amount of waste in military spending. I mean, you know, it pops up on Facebook, Twitter all the time. You know, we have hundreds of tanks, you know, sitting in a California desert. We have planes sitting in deserts in Nevada, I think. You know, we were talking about the outgoing acting Secretary of Defense, I think, that was openly just firing on the Pentagon over the F-35 and the boondoggle that has become, you know.
And I want to say, I think to give you an idea of how insane this is, I believe we're spending like the F-35 program, I believe it is. I think it's costing the United States government in total over like $1.4 trillion or something like that, which...
It's for Austinites, it's like trying to put a whole bunch of Mopacs in the air. It's dramatically over budget and dramatically over on time cost. You know, and honestly, from what we've seen, it might be about as effective.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm actually gonna look it up here because you've got me interested. The F-35. Hold on one sec. Let me see if I can find a total cost here.
And I mean, this is one of the things that President Trump promised to crack down on, and you know, even under a Republican administration, which should be budget hawks if anything they said during Democrat administrations was to be believed. But
yeah, here you go.
Instead, that.
$1.5 trillion over a 55-year lifespan. That's a shit ton of money. I mean, we're talking...
That's an ungodly amount of money.
We're talking the coronavirus. I mean, obviously, there's this $15 minimum wage discussion we had as part of the new coronavirus funding, in the latest stimulus bill, I should say. And, his entire package is $1.9 trillion.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, 1.5.
A bunch of planes that don't work, or, America gets a raise.
And I do remember a couple of years ago when there was there was actually an incident where, the U.S. had a, I can't remember exactly what, but it was like a U.S. like a Russian MiG and the U.S. like a fighter actually got into it, or like the Russian planes were getting too close.
It's happened several times.
But it's one of those things. Yeah. As part of the article, they were like, well, the last time there was an air-to-air dogfight between a U.S. plane and someone else was like back in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, even in the days of like Vietnam, I think that there was something. The statistic is insane. It's something like the North Vietnamese only had like 12 Russian MiGs, and we like immediately shot eight of them down, so they just stopped flying them.
Yeah.
Air to air is, it's kind of like why Somali pirates exist, because the rest of the world gave up on navies. So, then the U.S. was like, oh, I guess we hadn't been over there in a while. Yeah, okay, we'll go put down the pirates or whatever. Like,
yeah, we'll go shut it down. Hey, America, please, what's that?
Yeah, really, Team
America. That's
World
what
Police should have had a naval section.
Exactly.
Or maybe the movie should have been mostly naval, but
probably. But are you ready to move on to the next one here, buddy?
Let's do it.
And this one's all for you. All right. So if you're watching, checking in, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. Like, comment, let me know what you are thinking. It's really always very nice to hear from people, and this segment is proof that I actually do listen to what people are thinking out there. And Kelly, a very good friend. We've had a lot of different disagreements on things here and there, but I value his opinion, and that's why I have him on the show. And he actually suggested this topic: is cancel culture a real thing? And so I figured I would let you introduce this, Kelly, and let me know what you're thinking. Because honestly, I think it's ridiculous. I think cancel culture is definitely a real thing. But you have the floor.
Yeah. This is definitely one of our biggest disagreements. I think I'll go a little bit longer on this, but I think I could sum up that question with no, it's not, and move on. But no, I mean, I think maybe you singled out one of the only guys to ever be successfully canceled, Billy Bush, earlier. But I mean, look, Louis C.K. is still booking shows. You've got Rob Lowe out there, who's killed his career a couple of times over at this point. And I saw him in a commercial earlier today. There's tons of people who have gone down for the only thing that is. A lot of these people who, so-called victims of cancel culture, the ones who aren't successfully still doing their jobs are in prison. The whole idea that your job's going to be gone because somebody talked bad about you doesn't really work when you see so many people successfully doing it. Again, it's the Louis C.K. thing. Sure. He's less successful than he was, but he's still getting gigs.
That is true, but yeah, and when I actually first started, I'm like, okay, I think this is ridiculous because people get canceled, and there are definitely instances where people have come back. Johnny Depp is an interesting one there for sure.
Back and forth a couple times,
and it's interesting with Johnny Depp now because I don't know if you're out there following this, but of course. He had domestic violence allegations with his wife Amber Heard, but it has now since come out that a lot of that was really all Heard being crazy. But I think this is an interesting thing about this is that Depp has tried to get justice for himself going after Amber, and now that's what's hurting his career. like basically people in Hollywood are like, you need to kind of let this go. But you know, that's an interesting development.
It's funny that you brought that one up. You know, because I was talking about you know, Rob Lowe had those allegations of sexual harassment, and then sued the people behind that. I think he may have even preemptively sued them before the allegations came out. You know, so we have seen that a couple of times. And the Johnny Depp stuff is very interesting because, I mean, on a lot of this, we'll never know. You know, it is truly a literal he said, she said. You know, and you have people with very strong opinions, you know, out there pulling for Johnny Depp or for Amber Heard. So that's, you know, that's a bit of an interesting case, but it doesn't seem to have weighed on his career too much, other than just, like you said, constantly keeping himself in the news in a bad way. So maybe, you know, maybe any PR is good PR isn't always true.
I mean, I think the big thing with folks like, you know, who can kind of maybe survive this cancel culture, and there's definitely, I mean, you could bring a good point about people being in prison. Obviously, Weinstein, he can't recover from his stuff because he's in jail right now. Well, actually, he's not. I think he got out because of the COVID stuff. But anyway.
Yeah, he got out because he's rich. Wow.
Well, yeah, for sure. And then, yeah, one of the things I'm interested in is this MyPillow guy. And when I kind of was thinking about this a little bit, does it exist? And I thought a little bit about this MyPillow guy, because you'd think that he would be canceled immediately with some of the stuff that he's done over the last couple weeks. And I didn't even realize about this, but he's got an interesting story. He actually used to be addicted to crack cocaine, and then started MyPillow. And you know, they started out, he only had a couple employees, and now they're booming, and he's a millionaire. But yeah, in case you missed it over the weekend, he went into the Oval Office to meet with President Trump, and he carried a binder in there. Or he carried a couple papers in there. A photographer snapped a picture. And some of these papers had outline plans. You know, they're talking about martial law and all this kind of stuff. And so I was kind of like, oh, MyPillow's in some serious trouble. But probably not.
No, I mean, we're, you know, the average American is not who the MyPillow guy is marketing to. He's about the only advertiser left on Tucker Carlson's show. You know, it's really just promos and MyPillow ads over and over and over and over again during their breaks. You know, the Olive Gardens and stuff of the world, you know, left for greener pastures a while ago. Although I will say, since we're on the MyPillow guy, I thought, you know, really, guy just doesn't walk the walk on, you know, supporting this country that, you know, people brought up time and time again. We're looking at these, the tremendous number of National Guardsmen stationed in Washington, D.C. right now. We see, you know, these guys just crashed out in hallways, sleeping on their rucks. You know, this could have been a great moment for him to step up and, you know, hand out a MyPillow to every single one of those guys. And not a pillow in sight, not a pillow to be found.
I know, one of my favorite things I saw on Twitter lately was someone was like, who's Joe Biden's pillow guy? He doesn't have a pillow guy. This is a problem for the country. Joe Biden does not have a pillow guy. But again,
what are we going to do if we don't know what Joe Biden's pillow guy thinks about the economy?
Exactly. You need a pillow guy there. And again, you saw a comment there, you know, wondering what we're chatting out about. But again, the question is cancer culture a real thing? And I do think, as I was kind of pondering this question, I have thought about it a little bit since you mentioned it. And I do think that one of the interesting things with this whole cancel culture thing, like you mentioned, like usually this boils down to celebrities. And there's definitely people who have been canceled as part of like the Me Too movement. Like, you know, there's the guy who was the Today Show host. You know, he hasn't been heard from since he's been canceled. Bill O'Reilly, who was one of the top folks on Fox News. He is definitely, I mean, he's still around, but he's definitely...
O'Reilly's having some success. I don't think he's a good example. I think he's a better example from my side of the chart.
Well, what I was going to get to is that I think where a lot of this cancel culture stuff comes to is that, like, we mentioned celebrities there, right? We mentioned folks like Bill O'Reilly, People who have these big kind of media platforms, these big kind of, they have a lot of exposure.
Look at more like what's it like if you're a local Nazi?
Well, exactly. But I'm like, if you're someone on Twitter, and again, as we've talked about, there's folks who, make a living off of being, Twitter personalities, being influencers, being out there. But, if you are making your money on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, and all of a sudden you say something horrible and you get banned from one of those sites, well, then that takes away your income. That kind of can shut you down there. And a lot of those folks, they don't necessarily have the main media following. I think one of the interesting things, like there's a guy, so I always go on about this Pat McAfee guy. I love this Pat McAfee guy, Pat McAfee show. But there's another commenter on there. So he has about 1.2 million subscribers, doing real good. There's another guy I follow, Brian Tyler Cohen. He posts a lot of, and I follow a lot of his stuff. It's one of those things. He sometimes goes off the deep end about, goes on all kinds of rants about, about politics, and can all seem very, I'll see maybe sometimes extreme to me in a little bit in some ways. But he, he has a ton of subscribers. He's a huge following. He's had Kamala Harris on the show. I mean, he's had senators on the show. Huge following online.
Right. Pretty legit.
But you don't see him anywhere else. You only see him on YouTube. Like, he doesn't really have a big mainstream media following. And so if he said something that could get him in trouble with YouTube and get cut off immediately, then he loses his everything,
Right, but at the same time, I mean, we see guys like, Jeffree Star, repeatedly, and he's a famous for being famous kind of guy, repeatedly stirring stuff up on YouTube. Jake Paul and Logan Paul, both have had some pretty good run-ins with the law, and they're still around, making more money than ever. So I don't think it's real. I mean, if we're just going to look on the more political side of things, really the only guys who've gotten banned are the guys who've gotten deplatformed by everyone. The Milos of the world. And that's pretty far. Oh, well, the line is so far in the distance you can't see it by the time somebody actually gets banned. I will say, though, it does seem like there are maybe content creators on the left who are more likely to lose theirs, smaller ones. You see them shut down on YouTube and stuff that doesn't happen to the Milos until they reach critical mass. But I wouldn't say, again, I wouldn't say that cancel culture is real. I mean, because being deplatformed is a different thing. It's just like, you wouldn't say like getting arrested is the same thing as having everybody in your hometown hate you.
Yeah. And I think what it's like, I think when it comes to the cancel culture stuff, and again, we disagree on this point for sure, but I think one of the things is I'm kind of piecing together some of these influencers and stuff like Milo. I was not a huge fan. I think he definitely did. He did the most provocative shit possible. I mean, it's one of those things. Like when I do this kind of show, like I actually want to talk about shit that I'm interested in, that I care about, and he does shit just to get attention. He just wants to get attention with what he's doing, and it's one of those things where he's not really trying to have like a fact-based dialogue about anything. He just wants to get attention. But one of the things I think about someone like Milo, who has millions and millions and millions of followers, all of a sudden his platform gets taken away from him, and it's not like those millions of followers just disappear, and so maybe they're out there kind of saying, hey, like my guy got canceled. And maybe for you and I, who are probably on like the left line, I mean, I'm more of a moderate, you're definitely more on the left side of things. But for maybe you and I, cancel culture doesn't exist. But for folks out there who maybe don't think the same way,
no, like I said, I mean, I see smaller people on the left getting their videos pulled, getting shut down. People I've never even heard of. The people rail about it on Twitter that oh no, the show's been taken. I'm like, well, I didn't know it existed, but which kind of sums up Twitter. But I mean, I don't. Cancel culture is a weapon to bash your opponent with. To me, it's again, we're going back to the Q Congresswoman wearing the censored mask while giving a speech to Congress on national television. I'm being censored because somebody said they didn't like what I had to say. And it's like, that's not how this works at all.
Yeah.
I think, actually, I'll pull it up. I saw somebody sum this up in a pretty succinct way that, it seems that unconstitutional means I don't like it. Cancel culture, person criticized me and I don't like it. And First Amendment, corporation criticized me and I don't like it. I think that's it's more about people just. I think it's another trope of the liberal media. I think it's just a weapon to bash your opponent with.
Yeah, man. I think a lot of those folks who very upset about Parler getting shut down and saying, "Oh, Parler got canceled," and it's like, well, now they just didn't want to get used. Like Amazon, as we speak, we were going to do a topic before the show. But Parler's back. Parler. It's one of those things. Amazon's very big, but they don't own the internet. Well, they're backing away. Actually, let me pull up the Parler site. I thought that was kind of funny. It was trending on Twitter. Parler is back, and here is the actual site. Technical difficulties, so you can't actually get back into Parler again. But they're using they're back online through a Russian server. So if any of you out there were fans of Parler, there is that. Though I will say, as we're we're not in the keeping score here on the show, but one of our nice viewers did chime in and said cancel culture definitely exists. So I will say I think that's 1 Pete.
Oh yeah.
0 Kelly. And
I'll give it to you. This is my. I
can cancel you right now, bro. I just muted your mic. I can't hear anything you're saying. You just got canceled right now.
I don't have any mask to cancel. I don't even have the fan.
Hey man, I'm a big fan of yours, and that is for sure. But yeah, I definitely think this is an interesting conversation to have for sure. But all right, as we check in with our comments here again, Kelly. LOL, messed up. But yeah, that's right, Kelly. I think they're agreeing with me there. I think I'm winning. I'm winning that debate there, bro.
Hey man, like I said, it's my hot take. I think if we learned anything from 2020, it's that everybody needs to have at least one hot take, and that's another there. You have a second hot take for free there. That 2020's main lesson is to be successful. You want to have some hot takes.
Absolutely. Just don't have too hot of a take, or you'll get canceled.
Or not. Or you'll lose a little bit of popularity and come back doing shows in Ohio instead of New York.
Well, Ohio is very beautiful. Good times in Ohio. Anyway, on to our. Hey, you should check it out, man. On to our next story. So it blows my mind how stupid people are. I mean, you always hear that, okay, people are the worst, but people are real dumb, especially when they are committing crimes. Like last week, when 2 weeks ago, when hundreds of people broke down barriers and stormed the Capitol, complete with zip ties and, ready to take Capitol folks hostage. There's a zip tie guy there. And they beat folks who claim to back the blue took American flags and beat cops with it. They also broke into congressional offices and destroyed them, and again threatened the lives of of lawmakers. But somehow, some way, they didn't think they would get into any trouble, which is batshit crazy to me. And I've seen a lot of these folks, and it blows my mind. A lot of these folks who have been tracked down, who are facing charges, who've gotten arrested, and how they're like, well, I was just doing what President Trump was telling me to do, right? Like I was storming the Capitol, but I wasn't really doing anything bad, right? I mean, we own this house, and I saw one clip from it. It's a little long, but I think it definitely shows me, and it should show all of us, like, this explains why they were not afraid at all.
That these people were so unafraid of the cops, who were sparsely distributed through our Capitol, which hasn't been breached since 1812, when it was burned. The reason they could easily and casually, with their cameras on, film themselves throwing things through the walls of our Capitol, our property, going inside the Capitol, sitting in Speaker Pelosi's office, casually take pictures of themselves, have that played on Fox News, they know that they are not in jeopardy. Because the cops are taking selfies with them, walking them down the steps to make sure they're not hurt, taking care with their bodies, not like they treated Freddie Gray's body. White Americans aren't afraid of the cops. White Americans are never afraid of the cops, even when they're committing insurrection, even when they're engaged in attempting to occupy our Capitol to steal the votes of people who look like me. Because in their minds, they own this country, they own that Capitol, they own the cops work for them, and people like me have no damn right to try to elect a president.
Yes, if that's why they were not afraid, because, hey, they didn't know, they thought shit was going to happen to them. And if you've seen that viral image of the Capitol during the BLM protest, covered with National Guards, and then saw what happened, when during this Stop the Steal rally, then you can kind of see clearly, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Look that up, because it clearly shows that the folks who stormed the Capitol were just not afraid, because they knew they weren't going to face nearly the same kind of backlash. But after a good time storming the Capitol, a lot of these dude bros jumped on social media trying to get laid. Swipe right if you like domestic terrorism. And some women actually are swiping right. And some women are, they're like, hey, you like to do some insurrection there? I'm into insurrection. Why don't you send me some pictures of you at the Capitol, right? That'll really kind of get me going. And so, and in one woman's case, she's taking those pictures and sending them directly to the FBI. Oops. And so I want to take a moment, just 1 second, to, thank these ladies for doing their patriotic duty, for helping to save America one dude bro at a time. And Kelly, I was trying to think of some kind of counter argument as to why this is a bad thing, but I couldn't come up with shit. You got anything?
I mean, when you said trying to come up with something, I didn't think that's where you were going to go. I wasn't prepared for it. This is what I thought you were going to say. I was trying to come up with some good headlines for this, like bumbling bumblers beat on Bumble, or brilliant bumblers beat bumblers. It's good, clean fun. Let's be real. Anybody who's ever seen an episode of Cops or anything else could tell you, you don't want your face on camera while committing a crime. So the fact that so many people in the midst of committing crimes were like, oh, selfie time, or then later posted, like, we were talking about, there's a picture a guy posted that's now in a court affidavit, where he had singled himself out and had an arrow pointing to him saying, this is me. People, look, that's, the Crime Stoppers tips, most of those come from people's exes, friends, family, but a lot of exes out there. So I don't think it's surprising people are getting turned in for this at all. I don't think it's surprising at all that people are doing it this way. I do think it's very funny that they took the political leaning off of Bumble as a result of this. I guess it's not really on brand, but
Exactly. And that's one of those things where, like, yeah, people are shocked that, Amazon and Apple and Google will, pulled Parler off all their stuff. And it's like, look, I don't know why people are shocked about that. I mean, same thing with Bumble. I mean, for a lot of companies, they just don't want shit to do with politics whatsoever, because at some point you're going to fall into bad, people they don't want shit to do with politics, especially if you're a business owner.
And especially if your business doesn't have to do with politics, you want to stay as far away from it as possible.
Exactly. And that's one of those things. People are like, well, there's millions of people on Parler, and it's like, there's millions more people on all these other apps. Why would they threaten their business for this?
And I mean, really, they got rid of Parler for the same reason that Gab fell out of favor. They were afraid that somebody was going to commit a violent act and use Parler to do it, and that they would be held liable, maybe not even successfully in court, but in the public eye. Why'd you allow this to go on if you knew the threat it presented? I mean, because that's why Parler became so successful. Is Gab fell out of favor after a guy who was big into Gab committed the worst attack on a synagogue in American history. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think this is censorship at all. I don't think this is part of the cancel culture to, if somebody's dumb enough to send you a picture of them committing a crime and you want to send that to the police, I think that's fair game.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, and it's just funny. I always try to wrap up a show with a funny story, and I'm like, I actually think you might have gave me this one, but I'm like, the fact that these guys are like, oh yeah, you want to see some cool shit? Here's a picture of me storming the Capitol. Like,
I don't know who fell for that really revs my engine. Let me see you stealing the podium or whatever, and then guys were like, oh sure.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those things I include this beer. Yeah, this guy, like, just look at the shit-eating grin on his face, stealing the podium. Like, it's one of those things, like, you really got a sense, like, that whole Joy Reid clip that I include. And I include that, I get some people are not a huge fan of hers. Totally understand that, but she made a great point there where they didn't give a shit about getting in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I saw, to her point, I saw a video today of a Capitol Police officer in the rotunda talking to Jake Angeli, the QAnon shaman guy with his neo-Nazi tats and everything, just kind of like, oh, hey man, are you guys gonna like get out of here soon? And then telling another guy like, oh, careful walking down the steps, don't want to trip. Like, it wasn't like, hey man, you can't be in here. It was like weirdly polite. I didn't know that if I went around committing crimes in front of police that they were expected to be polite to me about it. Generally speaking, that's not the reception I've seen it receive. I know you and I have watched a couple of people have what's called interactions with the police, and I don't think in those interactions that police were like, well, hey man, just go ahead and stop doing crimes. They were, it was a very different response.
I'm about to say, you calling them interactions is very white of you, Kelly, but it's one of those fun things. I'm always like, if I'm going out with something, I gotta have Kelly, gotta have one of the white guys around, because I won't get, you guys are great. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're out there, and if you're black, get a white person in your life.
Well, hey man, like I said, I didn't know I could just do crimes in front of cops. Might have to up my my quotient of crimes. Now instead of just illegally streaming or something, maybe I'm gonna go start stealing donuts in front of cops or something. I don't know. But again, I just somehow don't think, unless maybe I'm stealing maybe the donuts are Q-shaped, I could get away with it. I don't know where the line is.
I don't know.
It's very confusing for me.
Who knows? But again, as we wrap this segment up, I will salute the ladies of Bumble out there. And thank you for doing your patriotic duty for, getting some of these assholes here. And as we check in with the live chat, we can agree. Darwin Awards in the form of federal subpoenas.
Yes.
I love that shit. That is the way to sum that one up for sure, man. Because yeah,
the two of us may disagree on cancel culture, but I can definitely agree with both of you on that. Yeah, I mean, it's just dumb. It's just dumb.
Yeah.
You know, even the Klan knew to wear hoods. Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like it's you know, we need that SNL skit where it was just Seth Meyers and what's her name? Samantha Bee. You know, just going back and forth, yelling "come on" at each other. You know, because really, come on. What did you think was going to happen?
Exactly. I mean, it really, it blows my mind. They thought just nothing was, it was just going to be totally fine. Like, what world are you living in that seemed like it would be okay to just, and it is interesting. I was talking with my, a guy I work with, and he has a friend who's a truck driver that was in D.C. and went to the actual protest itself. And so he was telling me his, like, friend's perspective of it. And the guy I was talking to, he was like, look, they didn't want to do anything. They were just going there to make noise and this and that. And I'm like, did you miss the gallows? Did you miss the zip ties? Like, how did you not see any of that stuff, you know?
Well, and I mean, also, you know, these are the same kind of, I gotta say, I think it's the same people who would tell you that, you know, all of the BML protests were all violent. They were all riots and cities were burning, you know, and you can't, well, of course you can. I mean, that's what everybody's all about is saying one thing and then immediately turning around and doing the exact opposite. Yeah. You can't be like, oh yeah, well, you know, we weren't there for the riot. We were only there to, you know, save the steel or whatever.
Yeah, you know, we were just there, and it's one of those things. Yeah, you joined in with the riot, and we talked about before the show started. There's a woman here in Texas who is a real estate agent who got in trouble for storming the Capitol and is facing charges and is publicly asking Trump to pardon her. And it was funny at this video. I was, I wanted to get ready for this show, but I just didn't have time. But she's literally like going off about, and this was a peaceful protest. I didn't know anything was going on. And then there was a video of her because she live streamed the whole thing, and she was like, I don't give a shit someone got shot in the face. I don't give a fuck. I'm here to protect the Constitution. You know, like, what?
Yeah, and again, like you said, for pure humor value in these is that, if it had been somebody else, if she was just caught in somebody else's video saying that in the background, you'd be like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. But the fact that it was on her own live stream that she left up, tons of these guys have sent incriminating pictures of themselves to the FBI. There was one guy who was, he was like, they called him and they were like, are you so-and-so? And he's like, yeah. And they were like, is this your phone number? And he was like, yeah. And they were like, we'd like to ask you some questions. And he was like, I'm not going to answer any more questions. But then they were like, well, we already linked you. You provided all this information to this account saying all of this, stuff inciting riots. I think we're just going to go ahead and arrest you, man, because you're clearly the guy who posted this. Like,
oh, yeah. And I think it's very funny and interesting with, everyone who signed up for Parler, right, and became part of the Parler thing and spreading a lot of hate and all that stuff on there.
Yeah.
So if you have a Parler account, you may be in some trouble because... So one of the things that I think this really kind of showed up with Parler getting shut down by Amazon and people freaking out about Amazon, but the thing is, Amazon is not like the only access to the internet, right? Like Parler could have set their own servers up. They didn't. Amazon doesn't own the tubes. You know what I mean? They were just like they're not technical. They didn't do any of that kind of stuff, right? But they got a lot of hate because a lot of people online made fun of them because they had everything set up through like WordPress, which is
I don't think it was actually WordPress, not for us to slander the good people over
not
WordPress.
To slander the good people, but it was like it was more of a public.
It was like it was a free trial version of something.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, all right, this is a publicly available like platform that you're using. And so way more susceptible to hackers. So basically people hacked Parler, got all the information, and like if you sign up with Parler, you need your driver's license. So very much tied to who you are. So people put all this crazy shit on Parler.
Yeah.
And someone hacked the site and gave all that information to the FBI. And that's one of the reasons they've been able to track people down so quickly.
Well, it's I know she's your favorite congresswoman, the Q lawmaker from Florida
or something, you know. Hey, she's really out there trying to make America great again.
She, before they shut down Parler, was getting people to just dox themselves by asking for people to give their name and phone number, and people were just doing it.
Yep. I saw one of my favorite posts was saying something like, before Parler got shut down, it was like a whole thing where like, all right, so Trump's getting ready to pardon everyone who stormed the Capitol. Send me your name and your information and proof that you're at the Capitol so we can make sure you get a pardon.
Yeah, I'm surprised that there hasn't been somebody directly, because I don't know if this is true. I mean, I saw the driver's license saying you had to have for Parler, but that they had to have your social security number. Was that a thing? Or
I saw that too. I think that is a thing. It's maybe either your driver's license or your social security. I think the driver's license was basically like a photo ID, like proof that you are who you say you are.
But I'm surprised people haven't targeted them, given that it's a massive breach, and if you're handing out social security numbers, I mean, that makes you very, very susceptible to financial fraud.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one of those things. Like if I was, and at one point, like doing this, and I've said before doing this that I like to see what the other side's kind of thinking and kind of getting an idea on that. So at one point, I thought about signing up for a Parler account, but they lost me at the driver's ID shit because I'm like, or driver's license stuff, because like that's just public information. You just don't want to throw out to some site.
Yeah, it's just a bad idea. It kind of seemed like a scam from the beginning.
Pretty much. But as that, the Drake's running low there, Kelly. So I think we'll call it a show.
Wrap it up here.
But hey, thanks so much to everyone for watching, hanging out throughout the show. It's been a lot of fun, man. We need to let's not wait till before Christmas to do this again, man.
Yeah, we'll definitely make it before next Christmas.
Yeah, sounds good. Hopefully we get a vaccine before then too, but we will see. But hey, everyone out there, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to Citizen Pete, and I'm gonna try to do these shows more often, so I will do a show sometime on Wednesday. Look out for that. But again, thanks for joining the show.